Do you wish and pray that somehow, some way, you could use your talents for something more meaningful, to help people, to be a healing, compassionate presence in our world? Are you being called to make a difference? Consider joining us, the Sisters of St. Francis of Philadelphia. Who are we? With Jesus Christ as our brother, we are sisters, sisters with one another, sisters in our church, sisters who belong to the family of creation. We are part of something greater than ourselves. Who we are together is what makes the difference. We place a high value on our spiritual lives, lives fed by personal and communal prayer and by the Eucharist. As St. Francis believed, everything we do is prayer. Our call to this vowed life, our life as sister, began with our commitment to God at baptism, just like you. Our call led us to publicly profess vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. These vows free us to be in relationship with all of God's people and with creation, and to minister where God's people need us most. We invite you to do the same, to consider a vocation to religious life. Are you daring enough to take the risk, and passionate enough to make a difference? One person who is that daring and has that passion is Sister Maggie Gannon.
I think when you first look at the vows, especially the vow of chastity or celibacy, it's so countercultural and a hard thing for people to understand, and I understand that myself. But it gives you a freedom to be in relationship with everyone that you meet, because you are not tied down to one person or to a family. Marriage is a beautiful vocation. The single life is a beautiful vocation. But my vow of celibacy in this life has opened me up to be in relationship with those people that I've come to meet in my ministry and those people that I've come to live with in community. And my vow of poverty, although I thought that that would be the greatest one I would struggle with, I've never wanted for anything since I've entered. What I need has changed, but I've never wanted for anything, and I think the simplicity of my life has made it easier for me to live my life. And with my vow of obedience, it's an obedience to the gospel values. And I think the obedience that I live, several of my friends who are married and single have that same obedience. It's an obedience to the gospel message, to try to be the best person you can be. So the vows may appear restrictive, and the way they're depicted in movies like Nun's Story and The Trouble with Angels is not the way that we live the vows as Franciscan women. I love my life. I love my vocation. I love my congregation. And I love it that God has called me to this life that's allowed me to grow in my relationship with God. I never dreamed that I could be this happy. And I've had everything that I could have wanted. I was engaged. I had a beautiful home. I was educated. I had money. I had everything that a person could want. But I have never, ever been as happy as I've been since I entered this congregation. And I've never doubted since then that this is where I belonged.
Another person who considered a vocation to religious life and felt called to be a sister of St. Francis of Philadelphia is Sister Theresa Lamkin.
I always felt like I had a great life. I owned a 3-bedroom home. I had a great family, lots of friends, a wonderful teaching career. But something was always missing. I just felt like the community piece was something I was called to, and tried to find that with people living with me, with my parish community, but it wasn't enough. And when I joined the Sisters of St. Francis of Philadelphia, it was that piece of the puzzle was finally fitting in place. I had met our sisters quite a few years ago at Palatine Hill in Portland, Oregon. And I started attending retreats there and loved their spirit and their just their way that they were with each other, and not only the fun that they had, but also their prayer life and the joy that I could see in each of them. And I kept being drawn back there. You can read a lot of things in print, but when you actually are with people and you see how they live, it gives you a good idea of whether that's a life that you'd like to live. And what really drew me was that spirit of being together, that spirit of unity. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life. And I've had a wonderful life and many happy moments. But I would have to say that I feel like God has really called me, and I found my place here with the Sisters of St. Francis of Philadelphia, and I found my home.
Where we go as sister. We go as community. We respond to the needs of others. We consider love and service as one, and live a life of loving service. One of the ways we serve is by our ministry. Work is not ministry unless it comes from a life of prayer. St. Francis lived as a contemplative in his world. We are called to do the same in ours. When our focus is God, our work has become more than work. It is ministry. Just as God's people have many different needs, we serve those needs in many different ministries, including education, social ministries and counseling, healthcare, parish ministries, advocacy, and spiritual ministries. How do you know where God is leading you? How can you best find meaning in your life? Pray. Talk to people you trust. Get involved in the church. Serve others like Jesus did. Open your mind and heart. God speaks to us in many ways, often through people and in our everyday experiences. Maybe what God is saying makes you nervous or anxious, but if underneath there's peace, you may have your answer. Is being a sister of St. Francis of Philadelphia for you? Listen to how Sister Diane Tomkinson came to that decision.
Everyone's vocation story is unique, and one of the things that's distinctive about mine is that I was attracted to the person of Francis before I ever met any Franciscans. And in that process, I was just really kind of captured by this idea of someone trying to live the gospel radically, literally, the way Jesus and his first followers did, and found myself asking, how would you do that today? What would that look like? And the answer that sort of came to me is, well, people are nuns and priests, those things still exist. And my initial reaction to that was, oh yeah, but that's not for me. Probably the most challenging was getting beyond people's stereotypes of what a nun is. My family, a lot of my friends, had a very traditional sort of monastic notion of sisters and couldn't imagine me being happy in that life. And they're probably right. I wouldn't have been happy in that style of community. But this community was vibrant, engaged in the world, actively involved in serving the needs of the poor, educated women, and this was a community that where my gifts and my talents fit. So the challenge was getting to know the sisters myself, getting past some of my own stereotypes, and then having the opportunities to let the people who loved me meet these women that I was coming to love and see that this was a good fit. The best things about being part of a religious community is having the support of sisters who are also seeking to let God be their all. So the supportive community in my own spiritual life, the support of relationship, and the best things are when we're together. The religious life is ultimately about falling in love with God, and you need to take time to be sure that that's the deepest desire of your heart. So my encouragement would be, if you're feeling that stirring, come and see. Come spend time with the sisters. Come test the waters. Come visit with us. Get to know us. Come spend time in prayer to get to know your own relationship with God.
Come share in our Franciscan joy that is rooted in more than 800 years of tradition and is still alive today. Consider joining us for a Come and See gathering to explore how God may be calling you. Listen with your mind and heart to what God's plan might be for your life. Are you daring enough to take the risk and passionate enough to make a difference? You'll only know if you try, if you take that first step. We invite and encourage you to do just that, to begin the journey. Join us. Together we can make a difference in our world.
For someone who would be discerning a vocation in our community, I think first and foremost, being able to meet some of our sisters would be really important. Seeing how we live, spending some time with us. To me, that was just really instrumental in my decision that this community had the kind of spirit and the charism that was important to me. Learn about our social justice issues, learn about things that we are doing in different areas of the world, and what we value. And also that we have a vocation director that they contact on the East Coast or the West Coast and get information sent to them anytime.
If it's for you, why wait? And the way you find that out is by coming, spending time with the sisters, getting to know what this group of women is about, getting to know who you are about with the Lord in this context. So my advice would be test the water. Just jump in and test the water.
If you have questions or are interested in religious life, contact one of our vocation directors or visit our website.